Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, no matter what time of day it is, good blank. So this is Dr. Chamblin, and for about 10 minutes or less, I want to share with you some of my thoughts about how triangulation, sub-questions, and the thesis paper sort of go together and support holistically coming up with conclusions about what you're trying to study. So we all have a research question, and we're all looking at a research question. So with this research question, our overall goal is to probe into this research question, learn about the pieces and the literature that have contributed to our understanding, then for us to test something, and then to contribute back to the literature through our results, but ultimately through our conclusions and implications of our study. So that is basically the circle in which we are operating in. So again, we all have a research question. Some of our research questions are quite broad. So for an example, the question, can using a memory strategy help students improve recall of information? So that's a pretty big research question. So when we try to probe the question, we are going to be looking at a particular context or phenomena. So I like to think of this as a context phenomenon because it's an occurrence, and this is where your method lives, and this is what you're actually doing. And so we have this methods in the middle of what we're going to do, and we're probing and investigating this area to kind of go back to look at our research question. And on the periphery of our circle is our literature review of all the things that we've learned thus far and the knowledge that we have created that has contributed to our context phenomenon. So we live right in here with this particular situation that we're using to help understand the research question. So if we look at this circle, if we just looked at it from one vantage point, we would not have a robust view. But if we looked at it from several different points of view, we would understand it so much better, and we would get a better snapshot of the whole situation. So when we look at our sub-questions, we're taking this research question and we're breaking it down to smaller pieces, more observational pieces, so that we can then attach an assessment to it. So we have something that goes with the sub-question to kind of evaluate what's going on. So a sub-question to the overall research question, can using a memory strategy help students improve recall? I might want to know, can using the memory strategy increase the students' test scores on a test that requires them to recall unrelated information? So this basically a test that requires memory skills. So I want to know if it can increase their test score. So that is definitely something that we can measure. So we'll have an assessment. So my assessment number one for this sub question one would be using student test scores, or giving the student a test on something in which they would have to recall unrelated information, demonstrating recall of memory, of things that they had to memorize. So that's an assessment. So I would give them a test, student test, which is a permanent product, basically is what we call it, an assessment, and that would be number one. So then I'm looking at this whole phenomena from one perspective. And my next sub-question may be, will the memory strategy increase fluency? And fluency from my literature review information around here, I learned that fluency and memory have some things that are related. And so as we increase memory, we increase fluency. So I'm using that as another way to look at this situation. So I'm looking at fluency. So now when I'm doing this, when I'm asking this question about increasing fluency, my assessment may be a time sampling where I'm looking at the time in which it takes students to answer. So I'm doing a time measurement, or I might be doing a checklist, where I'm observing the students and I'm observing how long it takes them to recall information. So that's a different type of an assessment. And so I might be looking at the situation yet from a different point of view. And my third question might be, well, was the strategy helpful from the student's perspective? When they used it and they studied, did they find that it actually was increasing or helping them to recall information? And so from that assessment would be a student survey. So I'm getting 3 different perspectives based on this context that's going to happen. So we haven't done the methods yet. We just have our lit review that's helping us to understand the situation. So we haven't done it as of yet. So right now we're planning it. So right in the beginning, as you're planning your sub-questions, those sub-questions are essential because they really can connect to the assessments that we will then use in our procedure when we move forward to test and to investigate the research question. So do you see how all those pieces come together? And then after we have our assessments and we look at those assessments in relation to all the things that we've learned from the literature and from what has happened in the context phenomena, we can then make conclusions based on the results and then tie it back to our understanding of the research question. Does it help? Does it not help? What happened in this study? How does the study contribute back to the knowledge base? Okay? So I hope that this picture or diagram helps clarify your understanding, and so that when you're working on your sub-questions, you will automatically start thinking about your assessments. And then when we meet in our one-to-one sessions, we will be able to work on that and refine it, and this will make the process a little bit more streamlined. So I hope this was beneficial. If it was, let me know. I would like some feedback on how this particular diagram helped or did not help your understanding of these basic concepts. Thank you and have a nice day.